The most expensive no in basketball history just happened. When Caitlin Clark turned down Geno Auriemma's desperate $1 million offer, she didn't just reject money, she destroyed an empire that took 40 years to build. But here's what nobody's talking about. The real reason she said no goes deeper than anyone imagined, and what she's planning next will change women's basketball forever. Before we dive into this shocking revelation, hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear hasn't been reported anywhere else. This is the inside story of how one 23-year-old from Iowa brought the most powerful coach in women's basketball to his knees. Let's start with what just leaked last week. Sources close to UConn's program revealed that Geno didn't just offer Clark $1 million, he offered her something worth far more: complete control over UConn's offensive system, her own signature shoe deal through their Nike partnership, and get this, a guaranteed spot on the 2028 Olympic coaching staff. That's right, Geno was so desperate he was willing to promise her a coaching position before she even retired. The package was worth over $15 million when you factor in all the endorsements and future opportunities. But Clark's response was ice cold. She didn't even take the meeting. Her agent sent back a 2-word email: not interested. And that's when things got really ugly. What happened next would shock everyone in the basketball world. Geno, who's never been rejected like this in his entire career, went on a media rampage that backfired spectacularly. Just this January, he appeared on 3 different podcasts within 72 hours, each time taking subtle shots at Clark's lack of traditional basketball IQ and suggesting her success was more about social media than actual skill. But here's where he messed up. He didn't know Clark's team was recording everything. The recordings, which surfaced on social media last Tuesday, showed Geno saying things that would end most careers. He called her fanbase basketball illiterates who wouldn't know a pick and roll from a dinner roll. He suggested that her popularity was destroying the purity of the game. But the worst part? He claimed that real WNBA players were laughing at her behind closed doors, that veterans like Diana Taurasi thought she was a joke. That last comment was his biggest mistake, because within hours, Diana Taurasi herself went live on Instagram to set the record straight. And what she said sent shockwaves through the entire sport. "Geno doesn't speak for me," Taurasi said, looking directly into the camera. "Caitlin Clark is the future of this league, and anyone who can't see that is living in the past." She paused, then added the line that would go viral. "Some coaches need to learn when their time is up." But that wasn't the whole story. What most people don't know is that this beef between Clark and Auriemma goes back way further than anyone realized. New documents obtained from Iowa's athletic department show that Geno actually tried to sabotage Clark's recruitment to Iowa back in 2020. He called other Big Ten coaches, warning them about taking her, saying she was uncoachable and would destroy team chemistry. One coach, who wishes to remain anonymous, said Geno told him Clark would never make it past her sophomore year without transferring. Think about that for a second. The most successful coach in women's basketball history was so threatened by an 18-year-old that he actively tried to derail her career before it even started. And why? Because he knew what she represented: the end of his monopoly on women's basketball greatness. The numbers don't lie. Since Clark entered the WNBA, viewership has increased by 420%. Jersey sales are up 800%. The Indiana Fever went from playing in half-empty arenas to selling out every single game, home and away. Meanwhile, UConn's dynasty is crumbling. They haven't won a championship in 3 years. Their recruiting class for 2025 is ranked 9th nationally, their worst in 2 decades, and attendance at their games has dropped by 35%. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. Sources inside the Fever organization have confirmed that Clark wasn't just offered money by UConn, she was offered money to leave the WNBA entirely. That's right, Geno and his boosters were so desperate to get her away from the professional game that they offered her a deal to play exclusively in a new league they're trying to start, one that would compete directly with the WNBA. The league, tentatively called the Women's Elite Basketball Association, was supposed to launch in 2026 with just 8 teams, all in major markets with salary caps 5 times higher than the WNBA. Geno would be the commissioner, and Clark would be the face of the league with a 10-year, $100 million contract. They even had Nike ready to be the exclusive sponsor. Clark's rejection didn't just kill the deal, it killed the entire league. Without her, investors pulled out within 48 hours. Nike withdrew their offer. The whole thing collapsed faster than you can say Logo 3. And now Geno is stuck trying to explain to his boosters how he lost them over $200 million in potential revenue. What really makes this story incredible is what Clark did instead. While Geno was plotting his revenge tour, she was quietly building something that would make his offers look like pocket change. Last month, she launched her own media company, CC22 Productions, with an estimated valuation of $50 million. She's producing a documentary series about women's sports that Netflix already bought for an undisclosed 8-figure sum. She's launching her own basketball camp that's already sold out through 2027. And get this, she's partnering with the Indiana Fever to build a new 20,000-seat arena that will be the largest dedicated women's basketball venue in the world. But the real kicker? She's doing all of this while absolutely dominating on the court. Through the first month of the 2025 season, she's averaging 32 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. She's on pace to break every single season record in WNBA history. And she's doing it all while Geno watches from his increasingly empty arena in Connecticut. The latest development just dropped yesterday, and it's the most savage move yet. Clark announced she's starting a scholarship fund specifically for players who were rejected by UConn. She's calling it the Second Chance Scholarship, and she's personally funding it with $5 million. The message couldn't be clearer. Geno's rejection doesn't define your future. What happened next sent the basketball world into complete chaos. Within 24 hours of Clark's announcement, 3 of UConn's top recruits decommitted and announced they were going to Iowa instead. One of them, 5-star guard Taylor Martinez, posted on social media, "I want to play for a program that celebrates players, not controls them." The other 2 haven't said anything publicly, but sources say they were influenced by a group chat where current UConn players were discussing transferring. That's right, Geno's own players are considering leaving. And it's not just bench players. We're talking about starters, all-conference players, the backbone of his program. One player, who asked not to be named, told reporters that the atmosphere at UConn has become toxic and that Geno's obsession with Clark has made him impossible to play for. The irony is delicious. Geno spent so much time and energy trying to diminish Clark that he forgot to focus on his own program. While he was giving interviews about how she was overrated, she was breaking records. While he was calling her fans stupid, she was building an empire. While he was offering her money to join him, she was making more money without him than he could ever offer. And now for the twist nobody saw coming. Last week, the WNBA announced that Caitlin Clark has been named to the league's board of governors as the first active player representative in history. That means she now has a vote on rule changes, expansion teams, and yes, broadcast deals. She's literally helping to run the league that Geno said she would fail in. But wait, it gets better. One of the first proposals she's bringing to the board? A new rule that would prevent college coaches from publicly commenting on professional players during the season. They're calling it the Professional Respect Rule, but everyone knows what it really is: the Geno Rule. If it passes, and sources say it will, any college coach who publicly criticizes a WNBA player could face fines up to $100,000. The response from the basketball community has been overwhelming. Sue Bird called it long overdue. Maya Moore said it was brilliant. Even Michael Jordan weighed in, saying, "That's what happens when you underestimate greatness." But the best response came from an unexpected source: Paige Bueckers, Geno's current star player at UConn. In a move that shocked everyone, Bueckers liked and shared Clark's announcement about the scholarship fund. When asked about it by reporters, she said, "Caitlin is showing all of us what's possible when you bet on yourself." Geno was standing right next to her when she said it, and the look on his face said everything. His own player, his chosen one, was publicly siding with his nemesis. The financial implications of all this are staggering. UConn's athletic department is projecting a $15 million loss in revenue over the next 3 years due to declining ticket sales and lost sponsorships. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever just announced a new television deal worth $200 million over 5 years, the largest local TV deal in women's sports history. And Clark's jersey remains the #1 seller not just in the WNBA, but across all basketball, men's and women's, professional, and college. Here's something that just leaked from inside UConn's administration. They're considering buying out Geno's contract. That's right, the greatest coach in women's basketball history might be forced into retirement because of his obsession with one player. The buyout would cost them $20 million, but they're calculating that keeping him might cost them even more in lost revenue and damaged reputation. But Caitlin Clark isn't done yet. Sources close to her say she's planning something for the All-Star break that will change everything. While nobody knows exactly what it is, rumors are swirling that she's organizing an alternative All-Star game featuring the best players in the world, with prize money that dwarfs what the WNBA offers. Imagine the best players in the world choosing to play in Clark's game instead of the official All-Star game. That's the level of power she now wields. The most recent development happened just 3 days ago, and it might be the final nail in Geno's coffin. ESPN announced they're producing a 30 for 30 documentary about this entire saga, titled The Rejection. Clark's team is fully cooperating, providing behind-the-scenes footage and never-before-heard audio recordings. Geno's team declined to participate, which means the story will be told entirely from Clark's perspective. Think about what this means for Geno's legacy. 40 years, he built the most successful program in women's basketball history. 11 national championships, 6 undefeated seasons, more than 1,000 wins. But in the end, he'll be remembered for the one player he didn't want, the one player who didn't need him, the one player who proved that his empire could crumble with a simple 2-word response: not interested. The truth is, this was never really about basketball. It was about power, control, and ego. Geno represented the old guard, the gatekeepers who decided who mattered and who didn't. Clark represents the new generation, players who build their own brands, control their own narratives, and don't need anyone's permission to be great. And that's the real revenge. Clark didn't destroy Geno by attacking him, she destroyed him by ignoring him. She showed the world that his approval was worthless, his program was replaceable, and his time was over. Every sold-out arena, every broken record, every million-dollar deal is a reminder that she was right and he was wrong. The latest word from inside Clark's camp is that she's already planning her post-playing career, and it includes starting her own women's basketball league by 2030. Not competing with the WNBA, but partnering with it to create a global ecosystem of professional women's basketball. She's already got commitments from major investors, including several NBA owners who see the potential for massive growth. Meanwhile, Geno is still giving interviews, still trying to stay relevant, still acting like he's the authority on women's basketball. But nobody's listening anymore. The crowds are following Clark. The money is following Clark. Future is following Clark. And all Geno can do is watch from the sidelines as everything he built becomes a footnote in her story. If you made it this far, you're witnessing history in real time. This isn't just about one player or one coach, it's about the complete transformation of women's sports. Make sure you're subscribed because we're going to be following this story as it develops. And trust me, it's far from over. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on who really won this battle. And remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it's silent, devastating, and costs your enemy everything they ever built.